I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, debriefed, or numbered. My life is my own.
What's up, my friends? How's it going today? Welcome to another Carpa video, probably number 3700 or something. It's pretty ridiculous how many videos I've actually made. Sometimes it's almost embarrassing to think of how much time I've spent on YouTube making videos. And actually recently it's kind of caught up to me. It does about every year or so. I make this video where I say, oh, I'm going to take a week off of YouTube. And of course the average viewer would be like, I don't give a shit, you know? I mean, take a week off. It's not going to make a difference to anybody else. The only reason I've declared it is because by saying that, it makes me less likely to just say, oh, well, I'll just make a video anyway. This is kind of a freestyle video, and it's about where I'm coming from. A lot of misunderstandings that probably people have about me and my perceptions of the world. You know, in the last however many years, 8 years I think I've been making YouTube videos, I've gone through a lot of changes. There have been stages where I was into alchemy, and all my videos were talking about alchemy, and not, you know, mental alchemy, rather, transmutation, and which is changing of thoughts and ideas. That was one of the most valuable lessons I learned, and one of the most valuable times in my life. Then I went into the kind of this yogic, Eastern philosophy, mysticism, Buddhism type kind of phase. And that one also taught me a lot of valuable lessons for my life. And it taught me how to have humility and accept what I have, be grateful for the small things, understand that there's a balance and that things will always swing back and forth, pendulum, balance, all those ideas I got from those studies. And I was always excited to pass them down and share them with other people. But over the years, that since I've been changing and I've had changing ideas, of course my audience is going to change. In other words, if I'm ending my video with "Namaste, my friends," like several years ago I did a couple times, you know, and there's certain demographic, certain type of person who's like into this kind of free-floating, spiritual, everything's grand type attitude, which I tried to have for a while. But when I broke free from that and realized it doesn't work, then of course the people who want to continue holding that mindset will part ways. And so a lot of different viewers and subscribers have come and gone. And in that time, also a few of you have been with me the whole fucking time. Pardon my language, but that's amazing. I have people who have watched me since the very beginning, and that's weird. It's almost like I guess a one-way relationship, because I don't really know the people as well as I'd like to. I mean, I don't know the people from YouTube that know me. They change screen names. You all have different faces, different names. I can't remember everything, you know, and I try to remember the usual people that comment. But the way our brains work, you know, I might see a screen name and not register it, or a picture and not register it, and sometimes I'll picture somebody's a male or a female and it's the opposite, and you just never know. So it's really weird being a YouTuber. And so anyway, over the years, as I've changed kind of my perception of life and my perception of things, there are only a couple things that have really remained consistent. One of those is that, and I clarify these for the purpose of, you know, as I get older, I'm learning that it takes time to process things. So you have an idea, and it might take several years of thinking about that idea to really come to terms with what it means to you. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I got to the art of just kind of not giving a shit, but not in a nihilistic way. And I'll get to that in a minute. Lately I've mentioned a few things that people have taken offense to, for example. Somebody said that I'd mentioned something about, for example, Otto Warmbier, or whatever, the guy who had came back with brain damage from North Korea. He was a college kid who went over there with a tourist group and trashed like a propaganda poster in one of the lobbies at the hotel he was staying at. I don't know what reason. Some people said it was a prank or a hazing thing. I don't know. But the fact is, he went to North Korea and trashed a government poster, and he got sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. And America threw this big fit about it. I don't want to go into detail about that, but somebody took it the wrong way, as if something I said in the video was saying that, well, he just got what he deserved. there were people that actually wrote articles like that got fired from their jobs because they had an opinion that, well, yeah, another American college kid goes over to a country like North Korea and steals a government poster. What would happen if you had a North Korean come over here and go into our White House and trash one of their posters? How would that feel? Or even in any government building. I mean, in other words, it doesn't matter. The point being that, the point I was trying to make, that it's overblown because it's an American in this other country, I was trying to make the point that it was propaganda, but it was misunderstood as being, well, screw the kid. But part of me also says, screw it. You know, I feel bad for the kid, I feel bad for his family, the fact that he died, all these things, and I don't know all the details, or, you know, it's irrelevant. The point being that I have a lot of empathy and sympathy, and I care about people immensely. And so over the years, I've learned to kind of pull that back a little bit and say, wait a minute. You know, I'll see the Darwin Awards, for example. You know, every year they post a list of the Darwin Awards, which are people who died doing stupid things. And I compared the guy in North Korea to somebody going into a lion's den and taking a bone out of the lion's mouth. Would you feel sorry for the guy? Would you call him brave? I gave the example of this missionary who went to an island, and he kept trying to go to this island to convert this tribe. It was illegal to go to the island because the tribe would kill anybody or throw spears at anybody who came near the island. Everybody knew this. He was insistent on going, and finally he got a permit from the government to go. He went over there. They shot him with arrows and buried him in the sand on the beach, and everybody made this big deal about it. I said, well, that's a perfect Darwin Award. You're well aware of the circumstances, and you took a chance, but is he really a hero just going to share the Bible with other people? So, while I'm talking about the Bible, you know, I thought that I would throw this out there because a lot of Christians hear me talk about the problems with religion in the world, you know, and they misunderstand, and they say, well, you know, if you could just only find God, you would understand. I say, but I have found God. I just define God differently than you do. Is that okay? And they usually just walk away. I mean, from the discussion. They won't even continue a discussion if I say, well, I found God through my own means. It's proselytizing. These people come out here with this holier-than-thou attitude and say, well, you'd find what you're looking... Like, somebody actually left a comment exactly this today, like, well, you'll find what you're seeking if you just look at the Bible. And so I said, but I have several copies of the Bible, as well as the book of Mark, and a commentary on the Bible that's thicker than the Bible itself, that has all these footnotes, and I flip through them, and I have the Bhagavad Gita, the Kabbalah. I have a whole variety of religious texts, the Mormon Bible. All of them are fantastic, interesting reads. I haven't read them all, of course, but they have information to convey. But all of that aside, they're just books, and they were written by man regardless of what people believe of God. So I can't get past the idea that if you don't believe in the Bible, you don't believe in God. And that's the attitude a lot of people have given me. And I'd like to say, if you're one of those people who thinks that you have to have the Bible to understand God, then you're vastly mistaken. The experiences that I've had, my connection to the divine, by some of the Christians I've met who claim to have a connection with God, by their attitudes and the way that they behave in life, it leads me to believe that Christianity is not the answer. It doesn't matter if you take Jesus in your heart, if you're going to scream and rant and beat others and harm others and dismiss others because of their beliefs. So what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that it's not an attack on religion by me. I really am not trying to do that. What I'm trying to do is say, religion, you need to stay the hell out of everybody else's business. And unfortunately, when religion is tied into politics, that's hard to, pull apart. So you get into controversial topics like I have been lately, and somebody's always going to get butthurt, I was even going to make a video about talking about Judaism. And I haven't figured out exactly how to talk about this. The idea that I, on one hand, completely respect the Jews for where they are in this world and what they've done. In other words, Judaism has allowed a small group of people to create a system that works for them and then to share with their own people. And even regardless of how you feel about Israel, the argument that I was going to make is I do not respect the Israeli government, but I respect the Jewish people, without getting into detail. And so I'm not bringing that up as a topic for this video, but rather to say that that's a subject that I almost don't even want to talk about because there's so much hate and misunderstanding out there. And like I said, it's the art of the art of not giving a shit. is required. You have to process this over time. It's stoicism in the simplest form, stoicism. And the idea, when I learned about being, the Stoic philosophers, it kind of put this image in my mind of the guy who's stern and just doesn't care about anything, doesn't let anything faze him. That's not what Stoic is. Stoic is just accepting the way that things are and kind of letting it ride, if you will, without getting over excited about any one particular thing. So, anyway, I think this might be the last video I make for a little while. I'm going to move this out of the sun. There we go. For about a week, as I was saying. Because I think I need a time to kind of regain my thoughts, restructure some things I want to share. I've been working outside on the deck out back and trying to get some things done around the house. Spring came and all of a sudden I was like, here's that motivation I've been looking for all winter. And I felt guilt all winter because of it. The fact that I'm not out there doing stuff, getting things done. And I felt guilty, and so did my wife. We were like, God, I just want to get out and fix this and do that. But it was, rainy and cold. The minute the sun came, I was totally, into cleaning and doing stuff. We got the gutters painted and rebuilding the deck out back and everything, or the roof. It's hard to find motivation in this world to do stupid, mundane things when you look at the big picture and realize, God, it'd be so much easier to just go live in a cabin in the woods. But anyway, that's for a different conversation. But anyhow, I wanted to give myself time to think about a few topics. I really want to make quality videos. I want to get more into detail, but I'd also like to finish the pharmaceutical one that I'm working on. I haven't even started recording the words for it, but I have all the photographs and stuff. Making videos is difficult. I see some channels that spend weeks on their editing and they still, it's very difficult to get ahead, and finding the time to do these things and get paid for it is, impossible unless you have crowdfunding or ads or whatever it may be. But anyhow, sharing things online is something that I'm really shocked that I've stuck with as long as I have. With all the things that I've quit in my life, all the things that I've moved on to other ideas and other interests in life, it's videos. I just come back to making videos. And I have questioned why I do it. And sure, there's a little bit of egotism in it, maybe. There's a little arrogance in thinking that anybody wants to hear what I have to say. But at the same time, people need to realize that I balance my humility with arrogance as well as I can. I don't have arrogance about myself. I have a low self-esteem in certain ways, and I've tried to improve that. And this is the one lesson I'd like to teach, if I can teach anything in this video, to all you young guys out there. We're often brought up to think that we're special when we're young, especially a lot of the kind of Gen Xers, right? The idea that if we teach our kids that they can do anything they want, then they can be anything, then they'll be amazing people. We found that doesn't work, that people need direction. The options are too big in a world that's changing all the time. I don't really know how to put it into words. It's like, I'm gonna have to get back to that one. Some things are just hard to even figure out how to word, and that's another thing. It's like putting things into words is hard. The fact that I can sit and talk on camera without actually reading off of a paper, to me, is always amazing. I don't know how I can do it, how I can sit but a lot of the times it's just rambling, like right now, where I'm trying to remember what it is exactly I was going to try to explain to the youngins out there. But I guess it's, I'll just move on. What are our intentions in life? And this is what I've been thinking about lately. What are our purposes for doing things? And so that's what it was. Egotism and humility. We're taught when we're young that we can do anything. And then later we're taught, hey, you need to be humble. Don't be so arrogant. Don't be so arrogant. And then you're supposed to be strong, but you're not supposed to be too strong. This idea that you can't like yourself too much, because then you might actually start enjoying life and enjoying others. Because if you don't respect yourself first, then it's hard to respect others. And I see that in myself. When I'm feeling good about myself, I feel good about others. And when I'm feeling shitty in my life, I feel shitty about the world and others. And a lot of the kids are growing up in a world where they don't have any direction or know what jobs they're going to be working at in 10, 20 years. And that makes people pissed. It makes people doomers. And That's another thing I really wanted to put into this video. Because I watched a video this morning about a couple characters. It's a channel that I'd never seen before. Can't remember the name of it, but everybody in the comments was like, "Oh, now that your this video hit the trending, I can't believe you don't hit more subscribers." They only had like 15,000 subscribers, but the guy does really good editing as far as it's all mostly stuff I've learned. But he taught me about this this meme, because I don't follow Reddit culture or what's going on with the youngins these days, rather. And there's a meme called Doomer, and then there's a few others, but the main two he talked about were Doomer and Boomer. Doomer is represented by this crudely drawn cartoon character with a beanie cap on, with his hands in his pockets. That's basically represents the millennial of today, if you will. The millennial who has been told, well, here, just do this and you can get a good job, maybe college didn't work out, whatever it may be, has just developed this cynicism towards the world, cynical attitude, and almost defeatist and nihilistic, if you will. And then there's Boomer. Boomer's represented by another cartoon guy who has a wife-beater tan, and he's got his shirt off and he's cigarette in his mouth riding his riding lawnmower. He represents the baby boomers and their kind of ignorant bliss that they've lived in for so long, because they grew through the 50s and 60s and what I call the two-car garage white picket fence era, where Americans had just left the war, we were finally chilling out, kind of enjoying ourselves. Sure, we had the Korean War and the Vietnam War, but those were easy to ignore for most Americans. Until Vietnam, anyway. Once Vietnam really got going, then people started taking note. But then they just took it off the news conveniently and stopped talking about it. So, Lyndon Johnson and the whole, fuck all those guys. The whole basis of this country, fighting wars has done so much damage. But anyhow, the baby boomer generation, they're not all ignorant. It was the ignorant bliss that they lived in for so long. And it's almost an envy of the doomers to be able to say, look at these assholes. They can just ignore all the bullshit that's going on in the world. But they don't. I know this. I know that they're aware. I know that everyone's aware. It's just that they have better coping mechanisms. And that goes back to what I said before. It takes time to process the things that you've learned. And our older generation, our seniors, our golden year people, whatever you want to call yourselves, generally have a lot of wisdom to share, and we don't give enough credit. We just think of them as just ignorant old people, or a lot of folks do. I don't. I mean, I understand the wisdom that comes with simple ideas, simple wisdom. Old men don't give you long, complex, drawn-out explanations for the way the world works. Ever. No. They give you a quick quip or a joke or something that makes you think. Old men are like Zen, if you will. The good ones, that I've met. And I remember a few, especially when I was younger. It just popped into my mind, this old guy I met when I was walking down the street when I was like 11 years old. I can't remember what he said, but I just remember meeting a wise old man who said something, and I was like, so many times that's happened. And we kind of write it off as, well, you don't understand, life is more complex now. And the thing is, it's not. Life is just as simple as it always was. It's only complex because we complicate it. Now, given the whole banking system, the internet, all the different complexities that we've brought upon ourselves, yeah, they make things a little bit more complicated, but that's all in here, because they've also been simplified. If you think about the amount of time it takes to work to earn, a loaf of bread, yeah, inflation is rising and it's costing us more and more, but it's still cheaper than it was 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. We're actually able to eat like kings now, and we just take that for granted. Watching humans exist. We all do it, and it's just amazing to me how stupid we are, but how smart and amazing we are too at the same time. I really feel like humans are amazing creatures. I mean, how else can it be? When some people say, well, we don't belong here, I'm like, well, what do you compare that to? It's like there always has to be a dominant species. And intelligence seems to be pervasive, in the universe. I believe the universe is intelligent on its own. So back to the God conundrum here for anybody out there who was wondering why I didn't finish up on the Christian and God thing. I do believe that the universe is conscious and aware of us. But I also believe that evolution is the process by which, okay, put it this way. If someone were to ask me, what do you think about God or religion? I would say this. I believe in God and the Word, as it's written, say, in the Bible. They call it the Word, which was spoken, which created everything into existence. I think of the Word as a vibration, and that vibration as the Big Bang, and that Big Bang is the creation of matter, and the unfolding of all of the universe as evolution, as the blooming of a flower. If I were gonna, I don't have a theory on space and time, but I believe in the Big Crunch, if anything. The fact that it's kind of like a recurring Big Bang, Big Crunch, or perhaps, I don't understand it, but I picture it like a flower. A flower blooms and it becomes beautiful and then it fades. And perhaps it reseeds itself. I don't know. But all I do know is that God is an evolution. God, evolution, and existence don't have to be, they're not exclusive from one another. Evolution is the spoken word of God, and God is not a man sitting on a cloud. God is everything. God is existence, and the vibration is the word. That sounds completely hokey to a lot of people, and I'm sure that will sound just, like, what the fuck is he talking about? But that's the only way I can define my version of God, and I'm sorry if that's not good enough for any Christians out there, Muslims, Jews, whatever. But, as I said, Jews don't harass me about stuff like that. Jews seem to be the most tolerant, and after reading the Kabbalah, or the Kabbalah, however you pronounce it, it's the essence of Kabbalah. And it talks about the Sephiroth and the tree, and explains how Hebrew text is written to represent directions, ideas. In other words, a lot of people don't realize this. It's something I think is very key to my argument against Christianity. Hebrew, the letters in Hebrew, aren't just obscure letters just made up out of the blue. Each letter represents something. And some of the letters can be divided into two different symbols that have two different meanings. And some of the other letters can be combined to make other letters. And a lot of Christians and even scholars don't realize this, but and I'm not saying that I'm wiser than them, I'm just saying it amazes me that somebody who claims to be a Christian, who's taken God and the Lord, Jesus as their Savior, and says this is the only path to heaven and that this is eternity, wouldn't take a few years out of their life to learn Hebrew so they could read the actual Bible, because so much is lost in translation. So the original Hebrew alphabet represented constellations, stars. There were a lot of different things that went into it. I could get into the details sometime and make a video about it, but by understanding Hebrew, you can better understand the Bible. And I believe that if I were a Christian and I really wanted to understand the Bible, I would definitely read it in Hebrew. But so much is lost in translation that we don't realize that it's really, even the simple idea that God created man in their image. That's the original Bible passage. In their image, not his. So, I'm not going to go on in the Bible. I really had a few things to cover on that in a separate video, but we'll wait for that. I'm just trying to cover all the ideas that I wanted to kind of try to defend where I'm coming from. Not defend, but explain. And cover a few ideas maybe that are misunderstood about the way that I think. Because, yes, in essence, I do believe in God. I just don't believe in your God, and I don't believe in your book. So, to move on, I've got a beer over here. I've only taken one sip, but I'll take another. It's getting hot. Most people never ask or think about what our reasoning is for having activism, for fighting for causes, or for believing or thinking certain things. It seems like a lot of people really don't have a basis or a reason to stand on it other than they heard it from other people. And that makes it very frustrating to talk about important topics with rationality and have discourse. And I've found over the years that if you talk about subjects that are important to you, then other people really don't care. And this is funny because, like, I was just talking to one of my best friends. We were texting back and forth, and he likes to respond to me in text about my videos. He won't comment on the videos, but he responds in text. So I'll have to say, wait, why does he say, oh, this relates to a video I made? It's almost like he's responding as a comment, but he's doing it as a text, so I have to figure out what it is. And he talked about CNN, and he was kind of defending the media by saying, well, there actually are some really good journalism stories. And I realized it was in response to a video I made yesterday talking shit about journalism and how there's, journalism is dead and it's all garbage and they failed. And I just told him basically that I still stand by what I said, that they have failed. We're CNN, MSNBC, all of the liberal media that was accused of being fake news. It was never fake news. It was elaborated on news. It was propaganda and bullshit. But just like Fox News, none of these companies can talk about certain subjects. You don't hear people talking about the war. You don't hear people talking about soldiers dying in Afghanistan or anything that's going on in the world. You hear about Trump. I clicked on the CNN webpage the other day for the first time in like months. It's just once in a while I go to look to see. I wonder if they cleaned up their act. No, the whole front page was Trump. And then another thing about the first ad was about somebody having a baby. I don't know if it's some prince or princess couple over in fucking... I don't give a shit. To me, it's absurd. Whenever I hear about some royal couple having a baby, I just want to puke. It's fucking disgusting to me. I don't give a shit about rich people having babies, okay? But I'm the minority there because other people do. And you know why I know that? Because if other people didn't care about all this stupid shit, then they wouldn't watch the news. And the fact that they do, and then the news keeps repeating these stories because people watch it, shows me that my fellow Americans are a bunch of fucking morons. Okay? And I can't help it. It's like I'm basing it on what a majority of people watch and find interesting. And people don't care about stories that don't have anything to do with what is upsetting them at the moment or exciting them at the moment. It's like I told my buddy, it's like, whatever new movie is coming out, whatever royal couple is having a baby, or whatever stupid rich little bitch got pulled over and fucking arrested because, some musician that got arrested. Like, I don't care. And honestly, I'm not right wing, I'm not left wing, I'm somewhere in the middle. I lean left, big time. But I totally see from the right point of view when they talk about how the liberal elite and the whole Hollywood group, they're just a bunch of, the whole movie industry and all the corruption within it, and I don't know. I don't want to sound like an old man griping about how the times are changing, but the times aren't changing. We're just repeating what happened in Rome. This is the age of decadence. The age of decadence is followed by corruption and death. We will fall apart. Our nation is at its peak, as far as I'm concerned, in the U.S. Could be wrong about this. We might go on as a superpower. I highly doubt it because we're not valuing value. The thing is, we were the superpower only because of our weaponry, right? Well, now that we fight guerrilla warfare everywhere, we're losing. We lost Vietnam. It's funny how many Americans don't realize this, but we backed out and left Vietnam and we lost with our tail between our legs. We killed more Viet Cong, but sure, we killed more civilians than even Viet Cong. A lot of people died in that war, but we did not win. And we walked away with nothing. And for anyone who disagrees with that, please do your history research and tell me what it was we really gained. Because the only reason we went in there is because we feared that the Russians were going to support North Vietnam and that whole area was going to be a communist regime. All of the wars we fought, just like the Korean Peninsula, we fought because we were afraid of communism. And guess what? Capitalism won. But here we are today, and all we have is our weaponry, and wars are fought not on the front lines with blue coats and red coats now, but guerrilla warfare within our own cities and faraway places that we don't understand. So, point being that there's not a lot left to win anymore. We can't just go in and loot gold and iron anymore, or, loot gold and oil without being noticed and recognized by humanitarian organizations, the UN. Countries are fighting and arguing about the stupidest shit. And meanwhile, everybody else is fighting amongst each other about silly stuff, and there are some serious issues in the world, and then we have the media just reporting garbage. I mean, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, any of them, they're not allowed to report on certain subjects. They're owned by, 2 or 3 people? Rupert Murdoch? I can't remember the other guys, but it doesn't matter. I think like 3 people own all the news organizations for the most part. If not, maybe it's 2 now. And you report what they want you to report. And that's why they don't talk about certain subjects. So in my eyes, it's kind of a joke. We consider this the America, the land of free speech, but our media won't even tell us what's going on. And then people who do tell us what's going on, they get threatened because the propaganda that's put against them, you know. I'm kind of disgusted by it all, and that makes me want to withdraw a little bit from society and a little bit from what's going on in the world. And maybe that's why my cynicism has kind of come out lately. And yeah, maybe that's why I made this long-ass last video, right? A rule of life is that we can never be in someone else's mind. Ever. Ever. Even if you can close your eyes and picture yourself in a person's shoes, you're thinking of yourself through your mind, your eyes in their shoes. Based on all your preconceived notions about life, all your past experiences, your upbringing, you might take a verbal abuse as something totally different than someone else does. You may not be able to handle criticism while someone else just doesn't give a shit. And so realizing that is very empowering. It's easy for us to forget that people are individuals. When you see your neighbors walking, you just go, oh, hey, stop and go, wait, they're human beings. They're thinking about me as they're walking by thinking, oh, what's he all about? And, you know, they're humans that have their own inner workings in their own lives. They're not just some asshole out there. The time when I really notice this is when I go to Soak, which is like I mentioned, the regional Burning Man, which I could not get tickets to this year, and I'm so sad. But I'm still trying. I'm determined to the last minute to get those tickets. In fact, I opened a Facebook account after canceling it for a year, because Facebook was a waste of my time. I had to start a new one just to try to get these tickets, and then posted a video about it and everything, and just hoping for the best. But I thought a lot about, why does this mean so much to me? It means so much to me because I can talk to people on a level that they understand that I'm just another human, but that I'm another human, and that we can share certain ideas without taking things personal. I've had some amazing conversations at 6, 7 in the morning after tripping all night. Just like, you know, not the stupid, I wonder if there's aliens, or, oh, what's life all about? But the deeper existential questions, the big ones. I used to think the big questions were, are there aliens, or what was that? That was weird. Are there aliens, or is there this, or is there that? But now I'm like, fucking probably are. Who cares? I don't care about that. I want to know what the best way to live is. Those are the questions that you start asking as you get older. You know, not what's out there. Okay? What's in here? What's in here? Those are the important things. And like I was saying earlier about the doomer and the boomer generations, I'm a Gen X, so I fell in the middle. And I feel like my generation grew up, we learned how to use a map and a compass, but we still have GPS. You know, we know how to write on paper, but we had typewriters, but we also had the internet, you know. And this, I think, put us in a kind of a weird position to see the extremes of people on either end. But I'm not saying Gen X is a real thing, it's just a perceived time of birth. But my parents' generation was the one that was actually probably the last truly happy generation. You could say that, but maybe that's just a perception. We just don't know. And that's the fun. It's just not knowing. So, like I said, we can never be in others' minds, so we try to use philosophers and our heroes to understand it better. Which brings me to Nietzsche and Schopenhauer. They're both philosophers that kind of came to the conclusion that whatever, nothing matters. And like I've said, Nietzsche was the one who said, God is dead. But he didn't mean it like God is dead. 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, 5 years ago maybe now, I didn't know anything about Nietzsche. All I'd heard is, oh, he said God is dead, and he had a huge mustache, and he was a defeatist, and just thought life was pointless. I thought, well, then why did he live his life? So I learned all kinds of stuff about him. And these are the guys that fascinate me. It's like, if he's just some chump who's negative on life, why does he persist into the current day? You know, why are people still talking about him? And I feel the same way about like Karl Marx. I thought he was just some idiot communist who wanted to rule the world. I didn't know anything about him as a kid, and I thought, everybody keeps talking about Marxism, I should learn about Marx. And I started learning that these people had such strong opinions about life that others just couldn't ignore it. They had to talk about it. They were like, how dare this guy Nietzsche say that there's no point to life, or God is dead. But what he meant by that was that we can't rely on it anymore. I don't want to get into the philosophies of these people, but I just wanted to say that the point of bringing up these philosophers is that a lot of kids will find and latch on to, whether it be Locke or Schopenhauer or even Alan Watts. People find a philosopher and they think, okay, this guy's the shit, and they start saying, oh, have you heard this guy? Have you heard this guy? Well, don't get hung up on your heroes. If anything, you've got to have a lot of different heroes. That's the thing I've learned. If you try to follow one person or think one guy's going to lead you to some sort of truth, you're missing. This is one subjective opinion. So this is the point I wanted to make about that with the heroes thing. And I'm saying this as kind of another answer to the third conflict that somebody brought up the other day. They said, they took it wrong, something I said in a video, and they said, well, I believe that it's important that we have heroes. Why don't you think that heroes are important? I do. But I did say in a video that we need to, put it this way, if you met your heroes, you'd be disappointed, okay? Maybe not if you met them. If you spend a week hanging out camping, just hanging out with just your hero, you'd find that they're just a person, and this person has flaws. They're going to do something that's going to annoy you. They're human, and that's awesome. So don't get hung up on heroes, but realize that I think that the best heroes are the ones that we don't agree with. In other words, this is something I've sought out only in the last few years, is looking for people who completely disagree with my point of view. People who I would never listen to this person, because I have a completely different opinion. And I decided I'm going to listen to these people. I'm going to see what they have to say. God, I wish I could think of an example. Ben Shapiro, okay? Saying that name probably makes some people cringe. He's an extreme right-wing, younger guy. He's always bitching about some liberal this, liberal that. Not the kind of guy I would honestly want to hang out with, I can tell. But the fact is, I thought I have to listen to these guys to understand where they're coming from. And so I did. And I thought, wow, he has a lot of really good points. Now I understand where the other side's coming from. Not that I agree with their conclusions about why these things happen. In other words, their complaint is right, the blame is wrong. Or sometimes their blame is right, and the left is the one that's wrong. And seeing it from the outside means that you can't take a position on it without it being somewhat balanced. Which brings me to the fourth conflict I wanted to resolve that somebody else brought up. Somebody said the other day, if you're not in the middle, if you're in the middle and you don't take sides, if you don't take a team, in other words, then you don't stand up for what you believe in, and that there are important things to fight for. And I get misunderstood on that a lot. I do believe that it's important to stand up for what you believe in, but I believe it's important to critically dissect and disassemble everything that you think is important. In other words, let's say you are a Greenpeace, you're a Greenpeace person, and you're out there fighting for whales. Or let's say you're fighting for some obscure species. It would be your duty, your responsibility to learn everything about that species. To say, well, was it already on the decline? Is there anything we can really do to stop it? Am I wasting my time? And then you can come to the conclusion that, okay, I'm fighting for a cause that matters. And like stopping whaling, that's an important thing, for some people. But then we get to some of the more obscure movements like fair wages, where you're like, well, what is a fair wage? How do we define that? Or Black Lives Matter. People say, well, wait, what does that mean? Don't all lives matter? And then it becomes this argument and this racial, tension between people. Feminism, which can be taken to an extreme, but is something that's natural for women that want rights. Without feminism, there would have been no suffrage. There would have been no, end of suffrage, the ability for women to finally vote. And we can't see that in our current day. The fact that women couldn't vote once. So what I'm saying is that we take things to the extreme. We fight for our rights, and then sometimes people misconstrue it as wanting special rights. And then we get into the world we're in today, this PC culture, where you have to tiptoe around everything you talk about. You can't say the word retard. You can't even say the word lame anymore, because it's offensive to people who are lame. I was like, the word mentally retarded just means exactly what it says. And all these different things that we're forced into these boxes, allowed to say certain things, not allowed to say others. To me, it's all open. I just don't care. I'm going to be honest with my life. I'm going to be fair with what I say. But here's the thing. Being tactful is key. you don't have to insult other people or say fuck every other word in order to get your point across. You have to be able to be tactful with it. So, as I said, we have to admire people we don't agree with. I think that's really important. One message I'd like to say is don't be an asshole. Don't be the kind of person who always has to be right, and you know, just let it go. You have to know yourself well to be able to do that. And believe me, with some of the comments I've had, I used to respond differently. Years ago, I had a dude troll me for like a year, and I was always buying into his bullshit. I can't even believe I was that stupid to give a fuck what other people thought. So if you're wondering whether you should care what other people think, and other people will say, hell no, don't believe what other people, or don't care about what other people think. And others will say, well, yeah, I care about what other people think. It's important that I'm in style and I'm, you know, I fit in. It's in the middle. You want to care about what people think that you respect. That's the key. If there's shitty people out there you don't agree with that don't respect you, then fuck them. But if people within your own group, within your own family unit, within your own friends group, or people you revere, say that you're wrong, or hey man, you ought to change your ways, then you will listen to those people because you want to be, I don't know, you want to be revered by those who are within your friends group, I guess, at least to an extent. You don't want to be a total dick. But anyhow, caring too much can be the opposite. Giving a shit too much about what other people think, I mean, it's the worst. And it makes you, it's the nice guy syndrome. And the idea that nice guys finish last, these terms don't come out of nowhere. And I'll tell you that because I've always been the nice guy. I've never been cutthroat. I've never cheated at games. I've never harmed other people or stolen from friends. I did steal from a few grocery stores when I was a kid, but that's a different story. But I've always considered myself an honest person that plays by the rules. And because of that, you won't make as much money. And without as much money, you can't get, you know, you have to work harder to get what you do have. But that's okay. I'd rather be a nice guy than be a dick. But caring too much by letting people tread on you because you're afraid of offending them, that's where I draw the line. I don't give a shit. If I disagree with you, I'm going to say as much. So it's about balancing the ego with humility and balancing your kindness with protecting yourself, protecting who you are. So the one thing I've learned after all these videos is the more you say, the more likely you are to make a mistake. And so that's probably why I'm making this video, to kind of cover a few bases that maybe I haven't defined very well in the past, and to kind of give people the idea of where I'm coming from. I look at the big picture on things, not just the small selfish picture about how it benefits me or, you know, how I can be right. Sometimes I say things that are in a bigger context and maybe I don't mean what I say, but most of the time I pretty much mean what I say. I know what I'm saying, and I'm well aware that my opinions might not be agreed on by all. But just realize that if you do agree with everything I say, you may be fucked up. No, I'm just kidding. If you agree with everything I say, because somebody said this, I don't agree with everything you say, but, and I'm like, that's fine. I don't want you to. I would be nervous if somebody said everything that I say is true and they agree with it. In fact, that would be like the ultimate follower. I couldn't even imagine that. Do not listen to everything I say. Take it with a grain of salt. If you're out there and you revere what I have to say, then research it elsewhere. See what other people have to say, you know? God damn, it's sweaty in this bus. Ugh, it gets so hot. But I'm so far into my video, 43 minutes. That's probably the longest one I've made. Yeah, you know, I have a lot to say. I figured I'd cover it all before I quit for a week. So I will be back a week from now. It's May 9th or something. You know, it's kind of weird because YouTube is somewhat my sanity. But my dream is to be a writer, a speaker, or a video maker, do something where I can kind of share thoughts with the world. Not just my thoughts, but knowledge, ideas. You know, for some people it's about just sharing their opinions. For me, I don't know why, what my motivation is for doing this. I've questioned myself over and over. I think it's a little bit of everything. I like listening to other people's responses. I like hearing people say, hey, I like this video. Of course, there's a little bit of like, all right, it boosts me up. I like the fact that people think that I've improved their life in some way, even a small way. And not the comments I've got so much as, but the personal emails that I've had from people, which have been very long and thoughtful. And I just wanted to say, you know, I appreciate everyone who's left a long message or sent me a personal message or an email. That I really try to respond in kind. I'm a slow typist, and I can use voice text on my phone sometimes to respond if I'm using that. But I read everything, and I care about other people. Sometimes I don't know why. Maybe it's to a fault that I give a shit about people, but I don't know. I think it makes me happy. I'm going through life with the same confusions as all the rest of you and trying to figure this shit out. I don't understand it all. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what the purpose is. And sure, I'd love to just buy into some book that gives me the answers, but the answers aren't there. I look deeper within my soul to try to understand the world, to understand the universe, and it's really helped me to understand other people in order to understand myself. And I feel probably closer to the truth now than I've ever felt. I'm not saying that there's a truth to be obtained, but just that I'm trying to live within my truth and follow my heart. And part of that has been to say fuck it lately. Fuck it to things that, to holding back. Not that I've really held back, but maybe just that I've been talking more about negative things lately, or at least things that aren't negative but affect people negatively in their own minds. And that's important to talk about because nobody else will. The media is not talking about anything important. Just talking about politics, or whatever, Queen's having a baby. So anyhow, I guess that's my ramble for the day. I don't know what else I would really say. I think I actually came to the point where I've covered all the bases that I wanted to. I really just wanted to say my cynicism comes from a life where I've been thrown around a little bit, okay? Things haven't been simple for me. Not just because of anything that's happened externally, but my own internal battles as well. There have been times when I wondered how I can even cope with any of this shit, and other times when I'm just so ecstatic about life that I can't stand it, and, I'm determined to live it out and do the best I can. And then in that process, I find that I learned a lot of things that have helped me, and I want to share that with other people. And so that's my purpose for making videos, to share for my gain and others' gain, and the mutual benefit of all of us to try to lead better lives. So I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you in a week. Be well. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Your support is what keeps this channel alive after all these years, and I appreciate all of you. If you enjoy varied content about anything and everything, hit the subscribe button for more. I won't burden you with ads or try and sell you crap you don't want through influencer marketing. I do this for the love, but if you do want to support my channel, you can visit me at Patreon at Carpo719. All Patreon supporters get free downloads of each video in podcast format. Comments are like currency. Your opinions and ideas help everyone who may read them. I welcome all discussions and respectful discourse, which I believe helps us all lead better lives through understanding. Be well, my friends. Take care.
God knows everything. He knows everything that's going on at the same time, every little molecule spinning around, every little atom, every little electron. He knows if electron comes over a whole orbit of a molecule goes. He mentioned otherwise the chemical combination, he knows if it's a piece of wood. What a workload this must be.
Can you picture God on Monday morning?